okay? But I get a kick when I look at somebody on television. He's lost 13 people. I lost 13 people. They lost 13 people leaving an airport.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the MeidasTouch Network. I'm recording this on Memorial Day weekend, having just watched Donald Trump, the commander-in-chief, make light of the deaths of 13 American service members. Deaths, by the way, that didn't need to happen because Trump's war of choice against Iran didn't need to happen. And so much of the blame for that falls on complicit, spineless congressional Republicans who refuse to do their jobs, who refuse to honor their oaths to the Constitution and act as a separate branch of government. A few of them, just a few, have recently decided to break with Trump over the war with Iran because deep down they know it's bad for America. The latest was Senator Bill Cassidy from Louisiana, who, now that he's a lame duck because he lost his party's nomination, has finally found his spine. Amazing how this happens, how these Republican politicians return to their principles only after their political careers are over. I asked my favorite veteran in the Senate to join me to talk about that, about America's war with Iran, and about her steadfast support for those who have worn this nation's flag. I am, of course, talking about Senator Tammy Duckworth. Quick editorial note, I've been on the road a lot lately and had to do this interview from the car, so you'll see my wingman pop into frame a couple times. Apologies for the distraction. Archie always has my six, and Senator Duckworth didn't seem to mind either. Here's our conversation. Senator Duckworth, thanks so much for joining us. I want to start with the primary shenanigans, especially down in Louisiana, and if it might be backfiring on Trump when you look at Bill Cassidy and the War Powers Resolution and the freedom he now seems to be experiencing in the last 8 months of his term. Is this an opportunity for Democrats?
I think it's an opportunity for us to, help our Republican colleagues grow some spines. Right after more than 80 days. I mean, I've said that they've all turned into invertebrates, right? They've lost their spines and they're hiding in their shells. Yeah. But frankly, after more than 80 days of chaos and rising costs, it's about time that enough Republicans came to their senses and helped us advance this basic effort to rein in this president's illegal war. And remember that we did this with President Obama as well. When he took some military action without coming to Congress, we actually forced him to come to Congress. So this is not something that is aimed at a Republican president. This is just about the fact that the commander-in-chief of the greatest military on the face of the earth, under our Constitution, under the laws of this nation, is supposed to come to Congress because only the Congress has the right to declare war. And so, this is the first step. And I hope that more of my colleagues would join us in this vote.
It is amazing that as soon as they don't have an election to worry about, I'm thinking of Tom Tillis in addition to Bill Cassidy, they seem to find the courage to stand up to Donald Trump. Have you thought at all about the dynamics playing out in Texas and whether that is another opportunity for Dems to find an unlikely ally in John Cornyn?
If you'd asked me this a few years ago, I would have said yes, but I have to tell you, I've been so disappointed in my Republican colleagues who continue to put their personal interests over the well-being of the nation. If you'd asked me just a few years ago, I would have said that, I believe that my Republican colleagues love this country as much as I love this country, and I was willing to die to defend this country. But I guess they love their jobs in the Senate more than they love this country because up until they lose a primary, they're willing to throw Americans under the bus. And frankly, we need more of them to step forward because just this week, Donald Trump said he was hours away from striking Iran yet again, right? And so the American people are sick and tired of footing the bill for a war that Trump promised he wouldn't start. We've lost 14 service members. Hundreds more have been wounded. We've lost, billions of dollars worth of equipment that have been expended or destroyed. And gas prices are, I don't know about where you are, but
$5
averaging just under $5 in Springfield and in Chicago, it's above $5. And so we should be talking with the American people, not going out there starting more wars.
Can you talk about the plight of those wounded service members? Because this administration has a long track record of downplaying the severity of combat injuries, of minimizing things like TBI. Are you worried that we're not getting the full story when it comes to those injuries on the receiving end of Iranian missiles and drones, for example?
Oh, I think very much so that they have downplayed the injuries to our troops. What's also really egregious is the fact that at the same time as they're conducting an illegal war overseas. They're cutting benefits for veterans. They said just last year that the Secretary of Veterans Affairs said he had a goal of cutting 83,000 jobs from the VA. And he has just testified yesterday for a plan where he plans on actually reducing funding in his budget for direct care so that veterans could actually go to their local VA and get help and get the help that they need. And it is very painfully obvious that this administration is willing to use our men and women in uniform as cannon fodder, but they're not willing to be there to take care of them when they're wounded and truly need help.
Well, one of those men in uniform that you stood up for was Sergeant First Class Jose Serrano, on active duty, whose wife was detained by ICE, I believe held for over a month. Can you tell us about the case of Deisy Ortega and what it took to release her from this insane detention?
Yes. So the background is that we actually passed legislation and there was a policy in place that DHS and ICE are not supposed to deport the spouses, the family members of an active duty serving military man or woman. So if you're active duty, then they should not be deporting your spouse. Because that was happening. We had people who were deployed and they picked up their spouses and deported them. And so she was actually at a parole hearing. She was actually at a scheduled hearing trying to get herself right in good status with the law. And they picked her up there at her hearing and at her meeting and detained her, which was not something, this is not the way it's supposed to go. And so I'm incredibly grateful for Daisy's release and that she's reunited with her family, but she was there, she was incarcerated, she was there for over a month, and they're not from Texas. So they're from Texas, not from Illinois. So I didn't know about this case until some of the advocacy groups were trying to get out. They were looking to see, like, who do we talk to? And they were not getting the help that they needed. And they're like, hey, we're going to call Senator Duckworth because we know that she's going to stand up for, on these issues. And they called and we heard about it. And I immediately, I happened to have Mark Wayne Mullen's personal cell number from his time in the Senate when we had worked together. And I texted him. And he responded right away. So I reached out to him on a Wednesday afternoon and she was released by Thursday evening. And I explained to him and he understood the law as well. And he was here when we worked on that. And I said, listen, this is not the way we should be doing this. There's no higher betrayal to our heroes than to have one of their family members deported by the same nation that they're sacrificing to defend. And so I'm really thankful for Secretary Mullen for heeding my personal call, my personal appeal to release Deisy. But I got to tell you, she and so many others should never have been in this situation to begin with. And so, I'm not going to stop working to protect our veterans and military families. It doesn't matter where they're from, whether they're from Illinois or from Texas. They fought for this country. We have to fight for them. I'm glad that I got her released, but she's one case. And I'm sure there are many more out there that just haven't come to my attention yet.
Hey everyone, it's Ken. Super quick break to remind you that I've got a Substack page. Please consider subscribing for exclusive content and bi-weekly Substack lives. And for the next month, every paid subscription goes towards my upcoming reporting trip to Ukraine. Thanks for the support. The link is below. Slava Ukraine. I did not intentionally ask you about Senator Cornyn with Deisy Ortega in mind, but he's her senator. Did you get any phone calls from the Texas delegation? Did you get any help from the Republicans representing Deisy and her husband, a active duty Army soldier, to try to solve this? Because if it takes a senator calling the secretary himself, it speaks to the magnitude of the problem, because that can't happen at scale.
Well, I'm a U.S. senator. I represent the state of Illinois, but I feel that all Americans and anybody that's in this country, whether or not they're here, if they have official status or not, deserve to be served. That's my job, right? I'm a civil servant. In my office, we so far have had 3 cases of military relatives arrested by ICE since January of last year, including Daisy's, and we're continuing to track these cases closely. And I'm not going to stop advocating for them. And you're right, I can't make 100,000 personal phone calls. This is why we have to hold the administration accountable and say she should never have been picked up in the first place. And so, last September, I joined Senator Warren in opening an investigation into the Trump administration's arrest, detention, and deportation of non-citizen service members, veterans, and military families. Frankly, ICE doesn't track arrests of immediate family members of service members. But what we know so far is from January of this year, ICE arrests 125 non-citizen veterans.
Yeah.
These are people who served in uniform and they've been arrested, and 282 non-citizens comprised of both veterans and their immediate family members. And they were put into removal proceedings. But this is all sort of going minutely through the data ourselves to get this information, because obviously they don't want to provide this information themselves.
Just to follow up, and I understand the politics here, but I'm assuming you did not get help from the Republican senators in Texas on this case.
I did not personally reach out to the Republican senators. I don't know if they had been contacted. I don't know that I was the first senator that they reached out to. I just know that the advocacy groups themselves reached out to me. And as soon as I found out about it, I immediately took action to try to get her out of there, because she should never have been arrested in the first place.
One of the other elements of Daisy's case that is part of a larger Trump policy is deportations to countries that these immigrants are not from. It feels like intentional cruelty. I don't know whether it's part of a deterrence campaign or because our relationships with our former allies are so bad that, you know, we're sending people wherever we can. But Daisy was going to be sent to Mexico, not her native El Salvador. What are your feelings on this larger policy of using third countries to act as warehouses for these immigrants?
I think it's intentionally cruel, and it's being done on purpose, right? This has been the policy at DHS from the beginning of the Trump administration last year. So this is not anything new. And remember, they were trying to contract with Libya to take deportees as well. So this is something that it's intentionally cruel. It's inhumane. And in fact, it's pretty dangerous for us to be engaging in these types of activities. And so, again, you know, this is something we've been opposing from the very beginning, and we're going to continue to fight them every step of the way.
Last question. I have to get your take on this nearly $1.8 billion slush fund designed at least optically to pay off the January 6th rioters / insurrectionists. People are referring to it, not in my language, as reparations. But I think there is real fear that this is more forward-looking than backward-looking, that this is about keeping a mob on retainer for the next time it's needed. How are Democratic senators talking about this slush fund?
Well, this is exactly what it is, right? This is a slush fund for the rioters, the people who attacked this nation's capital, and by the way, was looking for the vice president to hang him. And these folks were convicted, you know, a large number, about 1,500 of them were convicted of actual crimes. What's most revolting about this to me is the fact that Donald Trump is okay with creating a $1.8 billion slush fund for to pay off a mob, but he's not doing a damn thing to help our Capitol police officers. Hundreds of Capitol police officers were there. I was here. They were here defending us. Dozens and dozens of them were beaten with anything those rioters could get. They were beaten with flagpoles. They were beaten with riot gear. They were, you know, were bear sprayed. Some of them have actually lost their lives due to suicide. Some of them have severe brain injuries. And he didn't create a slush fund for them, right? He's creating a slush fund for the criminals that he pardoned, but he didn't do anything for our law enforcement officers. And so, according to this grifter of a president, there's no money for daycare or health care, and he couldn't give a damn about Americans' financial situation as gas prices are going through the roof for his legal war. But boy, will he roll out the red carpet for a bunch of criminals.
Yeah. I said last question, but I do want to ask you one more, because it seems like with everything this president does, whether it's this slush fund or the ballroom or saying, as you reminded us, that he doesn't care about the economic plight of Americans, it's almost as if he doesn't care anymore about electoral politics, that maybe he's got a backup plan. Is this something we should be worried about?
Yes, but I think we should be worried about it, because he doesn't care about electoral politics, because he's got a Republican Party that would do whatever he wants it to do. I know that we've spoken positively about Senator Tillis and Senator Cassie coming forward and voting the right way, but remember that they voted with him all the way. And even Senator Tillis, who has, for many months now declared that he was not running for re-election, continues to vote with the Republican Party and continues, he voted against a war powers resolution. So let's be clear that these are not heroes. These are not profiles in courage. This is a Republican Party would let Donald Trump do whatever he wants to do. And as long as they do that, there cannot be checks and balances, not as long as the Republicans are in power.
Well, Senator Duckworth, thank you so much, as always, for joining us. And thank you most of all for coming to the rescue, really, of Deisy Ortega when it seems like her own Republican senators would not.
Leave no one behind. Learned that in the Army.
Indeed. Thank you, Senator.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.